Cunningham is considered one of Texas's preeminent photographers. He attended the Art Institute of Atlanta, earned a bachelor degree of science in photography from East Texas State University. He's worked for the State Wildlife Department, Parks and Wildlife Department, for a long time. He'll talk about it to us tonight about his experiences and also about the book that he has here if you're interested in that.
Mike's good friend. Mike's a great guy I've known uh, for years, and he had put out some books, and one in particular he had uh, donated the profits to the Texas Parks and Wildlife Foundation. And I thought, well, this is a great idea. I can do my photography, I can put it in a book, and I can donate the profits because the deal is all of my photography that I shot for 25 years belongs to Texas Parks and Wildlife. I have no copyright to it. So yeah, I really couldn't make any money off of a book. So I thought, well, donating the profits to the foundation would be an idea. So I approached the publisher, Texas A&M Press, and they went for it, and they loved the idea. So the next task was to put together 25 years of images into a book. I had to kind of narrow down about 200,000 images into 200. And the hard part was coming up with uh, chapters. How do you divide up photography like that? So many different divisions to the agency, so many different types of photography. How on earth do you divide them up? So what it ended up being is we broke it into three broad chapters: the wild places of Texas, the wild things of Texas, and then the faces, people. People are so important to the Texas conservation. Most of Texas, in fact, 95% of the state is privately owned. So that means a lot of the conservation efforts go on private land by people, farmers, ranchers, landowners. So I wanted to include people in the book too. That meant shooting portrait photography. A lot of photographers don't really like portrait photography. They'd much rather be out shooting a mountain or a flower or an animal. But I love the portrait photography. It allows you to learn about these people in their lives, and uh, I just love that aspect of it. So here's the book. It came out in December. Been very successful so far. I've been very, very pleased with it. And so what I'm going to do is just going to go through and kind of give you an idea of what I had to cover with the agency. And by the way, please make this a two-way street. Jump in if you got a question or something. I have no really planned way to take this. So if you want to talk about cameras, lenses, photography in general, by all means, let's do it. So, the landscape. Oh yes, I mean, I love the Texas landscape. That's my favorite thing to shoot. I mean, and who wouldn't like it? You don't have to worry about people talking back to you, or sitting in a blind for 3 days waiting for a deer to come up. Uh, our Texas landscape is just gorgeous. And what a lot of people don't realize is uh, the the different ecological and natural regions of Texas that we have. I mean, you've got the Houston area, the Gulf Coast. You got the forest over there. Uh, we got the piney woods, the Panhandle Plains, hill country, the desert. Uh, People who don't live in Texas just don't really know what we've got. And it's a beautiful place, and I've just really been lucky and blessed to pretty much see a little bit all of it. Um, well, if you ever get a chance, go down to Garner State Park. That's our most heavily traveled state park down by Uvalde. The Frio River, you talk about photography or photographic potential. It's great down there, especially you get the cypress trees that are turning in autumn time. Um, one of the great things about the digital sensors now is they have opened up so many new opportunities for photography. And as you well know, I heard you talking about night photography. We couldn't do that before. It just opens up those opportunities to see things in ways that we never saw it before. And then as a result, you get to, sometimes get some really great images. For me, it's all about lighting. And I'm sure you'll agree that it's lighting that makes the photograph, regardless of the subject matter. So I would always try to plan my shoots, around good lighting. Hopefully you get there the right time of day and you get some kind of atmospheric conditions, and uh, the light's good. And then when you don't expect it, you get what I call the cherry on top. Somebody shows up in a canoe, or a bird flies over, that one little thing you never counted on, and it shows up. So I'm always looking for the cherry on top in a shot. Palo Duro Canyon State Park. Um, that's our old iconic park. That's where you think about the cowboys and Indians up in the hills, and Buffalo. Uh, as far as color, it's that whole Red Rock country up there is just hard to beat for photography. And again, you try to plan your shoot around the time of day, and if you're lucky, you get pretty clouds, and things just work out. Another great place, Guadalupe Mountains National Park. I'm always amazed by how few Texans really get to some of these places. Guadalupe, for instance, for one, but the other one is Big Bend National Park. It seemed like a lot of people just get on I-10 and go straight from, uh, Central Texas to El Paso on I-10, and they never think what's happening south of that interstate. But as you start getting south of that in the Big Bend, it's just, oh my, it's a playground for photography. And of course, the hill country areas, Guadalupe River State Park. Uh, we had 125 state parks, and luckily I was able to visit just about every one of them. Uh, a lot of those parks were historic parks that recently went to the Texas Historical Commission. So Parks and Wildlife didn't have them anymore, but the Historical Commission took them over. And of course, I got to have a obligatory deer shot. People think, oh, you're Parks and Wildlife. You probably see a lot of big deer and go deer hunting. And well, I get out every now and then. But again, there are guys who specialize in these kind of things. They'll sit there for a week waiting for that one great deer shot. And more power to them. I really don't have the patience. I'll get them when their opportunity presents itself, but I'm not the guy to sit there for a week. Now, another great place you guys really need to go to if you haven't been, South Texas. Um, uh, in the Rio Grande Valley, there's popped up a bunch of photo ranches. This is the Santa Clara Ranch outside of Edinburgh, but they actually have blinds there. You can step down underground into these blinds, so you're sitting there in a nice, comfortable ground blind at eye level with a little pond there about 10 feet away, and every animal in South Texas comes to that stand, and you never know what you're going to get. It may be something like this with the Audubon Oriole and the green jay, or bobcats, or javelina, snakes. It's just it's a grab bag, and it's a wonderful place for photography.
Where was this again, Earl? I'm
Okay,
sorry.
this is on the Santa Clara Ranch, and they have a lodge there for photographers. I would really advise checking into that.
I can get you the information, Ellen. David and I go.
Yeah, you
Okay.
guys would love it. You absolutely
Yeah.
would.
Yeah. And it's nice to go when Hector's there.
Yes, yes. Anytime you get time with Hector, uh, that's a good time. He is probably I'm going to say he's one of the top wildlife photographers in the world now. He won't like me saying that, but I think he is. And when people ask me what good wildlife photography looks like, I always point them to Hector Astorga's site, because he is tops. Of course, our one of our best kept secrets is Caprock Canyon State Park. It's upward toward Turkey, Texas, in the little town of Kittiquay. And it's kind of the same red rock country you would see up in Palo Duro Canyon, but it's a park unto itself. And in it, we have the Texas bison herd. It's the official state bison herd. And you can see them up close. But these were captured several years ago. I actually participated in the capture on the big ranch up at the Panhandle at the old Charles Goodnight Ranch. These are the last remnants of the Southern Plains bison herd. So they are pure genetic Southern Plains bison, and they've established I think it's about 300,000 acres up there for them, and it's just beautiful to watch them up there, and especially you get up there in the snow. The cold weather doesn't phase them a bit. They're tough and they're beautiful.
Earl, what is the southern bison? How are they different from the other bison? Are they?
Well, there were different strains of bison. There was the Southern Plains bison. There were other herds, different parts of the country, but I mean, the Southern Plains were the Southern Plains. Now, what has happened in recent years is they've interbred with other bison and actually with cattle too. You got a lot of cattle DNA in some of them. But these, and that was what Charles Goodnight had done. He had gotten these last remnants in the 1800s on the plains and kept them on his ranch. And then the ranch had donated them to the state in about 1997. And so I went up and participated with the biologists where they actually captured them up there and then took them down to the park. And of course, they were all tested. Their DNA was tested and they were still pure. Beautiful animals. Somebody saying something there?
How many animals were there?
Oh goodness, several hundred. The initial capture was around 100, but they've multiplied quite a bit. It's a very healthy herd up there. So, but yeah, different parts of the state here. We get down to Aransas Refuge, and a lot of you probably photograph the whooping cranes around there. There's so many great opportunities for photography at these places as far as guide services to take you out. And again, I look for lighting, something a little bit different. You get a foggy morning, it just makes all the difference. Here's another one down at the Santa Clara Ranch. And what they'll do is for these Cara, he has a big tree down there, and every morning he will wire up pieces of chicken, raw chicken, to this tree, and the Cara will just flock in, probably 10 or 20 at a time, and you'll have hawks in there mixed with them, and so it's just such a wonderful place for photography to get some easy shots. Of course, fishing is what the agency is all about. People fishing. One of the big pushes for the agency is to get younger people fishing. What we're finding is that the younger generations just do not get out like their parents did. They don't hunt, they don't fish. Mostly they sit in front of a computer now, sadly, looking at an iPhone. I mean, I'm guilty of that too. But so the big push for the agency was to get people outdoors. And again, I use the tricks in my camera case to try to make a good shot. You plan your times in the morning, try to get some good light, and you get all these little atmospheric conditions, and it can make all the difference in a photograph.
Where was that at?
That was at Caddo Lake. Yeah, just a beautiful spot if you haven't been there. And again, I'm amazed by how many Texans have not been to Caddo Lake. Of course, it's up in the corner of the state, but it's just a magical place. One of our state parks was the Washington and Brazos, and as part of the park there, they have the old Anson Jones home. It's called Barrington Farm, and so they have all the interpretive people there who were showing what life looked like back in the Texas Republic period. So I showed up there at the farm, and anytime you got a cute kid and a rooster, well, you got a photograph. So uh, she was nice to pose for me, and so was a rooster. And if you're lucky, you get some nice colors to work with and some backlighting. So you just use all the little elements to your advantage when you can get them. The Buffalo Soldiers were a big part of our agency outreach. I'd go with them when they would go to schools, and they'd put on presentations talking about the Buffalo Soldiers during the Civil War. So I always enjoyed photographing the various reenactors and the various periods that they depicted. I love black and white. I was raised in a dark room. Again, developers rose through my veins. So anytime I had a chance to do true black and white with negative and processing, I jumped on that, and that's what this was. And now, actually, I've embraced some of the apps. This is an iPhone app of all things, little tintype app. I played with that. We shot a magazine story with it. So anything to make an image different, something that jumps out a little bit, can make all the difference in the world. So this is the just called tintype app. Now you can overdo it. Anything can be a gimmick, but you can use it to your advantage sometimes. Of course, hunting is a big deal for the agency, and trying to get other groups out hunting who don't normally hunt. Ladies, ladies are not big goose hunters, so they brought had a special day for ladies for geese hunting, and I got to sit there, a couple of ladies in a very cold, wet, muddy field waiting for some geese to come through, and it was just interesting to watch the reactions and the emotions during the shoot. So, and again, you try to shoot it in a somewhat interesting way. Hopefully, we did that. Of course, hunting. One thing we tried not to do for the magazine is show a bunch of dead animals. Yeah, you can show all the, the ducks and the waterfowl you shot, and the deer with the tongue hanging out. But it's more about the hunt itself. And so that's what I try to illustrate as much as possible, is all the various facets of the hunt. In this case, it's the dog. I was sitting there, and I noticed that the dog was so on focus, in tune with the birds coming in. He saw the birds before the hunters even saw the birds. I was so impressed with the attention that he had. I just had a photograph from here. And this was actually the very last assignment I had for the magazine. This was end of last February. Had to photograph a waterfowl hunt. Actually down there, kind of in y'all's neck of the woods. This was actually out of Bay City, but a cold, icy morning, and again, you plan your shoot for magic light. Hopefully, you're gonna get some great light, and then just let everything else, all the other elements, revolve around the light. I try to. One thing I try to do when I shoot is not necessarily think about shooting a thing, but to shoot a thing or subject in context with its surrounding. I mean, that's what a journalistic photo is. A portrait shot would be go up and get the close up of the hunter and the dog. You change modes and you get into a photojournalistic mode, and now you put that hunter and the dog in context of the story, the surrounding. So it was always kind of fun to jump around to the different genres of photography at any given time. And still from a photojournalistic aspect, this is in Fredericksburg when we had the Admiral Nimitz Museum there. They had the big parade downtown for the survivors of Pearl Harbor. So it was a real pleasure to be up on the truck with these guys and hear all their stories about Pearl Harbor. You'd think that it would be all doom and gloom, but everything was happy. They were telling their fun stories of the war. It was an interesting perspective to be up there with them. and I get some interesting folks to photograph sometime. Uh, Mrs. Bush wrote an essay for our magazine one year, and they said, "Well, we're going to need a photograph of her." So she had written about growing up out in Midland, and as a child, she played at Monahan Sandhills State Park. So they arranged for me to meet her out there one morning. So I show up before sunrise, and I'm the only person in the park. And here comes this black car, and lady steps out and puts out her hand, and says, "Hi, I'm Laura Bush." Well, duh, yeah. But so we went out and played in the sand dunes for a while, and got a few shots. And she said, "Well, we're going to go into town and have some lunch. You want to go with us?" Well, yeah. I mean, you don't turn down. And this is when he was governor, so she was the first lady of Texas at this point. They hadn't made it to the White House yet. So I have had some interesting portrait assignments. One of the downsides of my job was having to document a lot of the nature's fury that we've had so much of these past years. This is Bastrop State Park. That poor park, it just can't win for losing. It seemed like every time you turn around, there's another fire down there. So I had to cover all of that a couple of times, and it was just so sad to see all those beautiful old pine trees just go up. I mean, and they go up instantly. I shot some video also, which I don't have here, but the trees just explode. The minute the fire hits them, they explode. It's one of those things you just have to see. Another fire. This was out in the Davis Mountains several years ago. They call it the Rock House Fire. It started in Marfa, and within just a few minutes, the wind had blown it from Marfa all the way up to Fort Davis. All those grasslands had been destroyed. So what this is this is a hillside after the fires have gone through. These are just the embers at night, and up in the sky are the stars. It was just kind of a surreal feeling to see the stars against the embers. It's like kind of a weird dream. Of course, we do a lot of aerial shots, smoldering wildfires. You try to, I hate to say, you try to do something in somewhat of an artistic fashion. It's a, it's a hard thing to watch, but it has its own interesting beauty to it. So probably the most exciting thing that I ever did at Parks and Wildlife was be able to go with our game wardens to various tragedies. It seemed like every time you turn around, there'd be a hurricane. This is actually New Orleans. This is Hurricane Katrina. It's the first time Texas game wardens had been asked to go across state borders to help. And I remember, like everybody, I remember sitting in my living room watching the TV screens of people up on the roofs and things when the hurricane came through in the days after. And I thought, man, this is terrible. But the photographer in me I'd love to be there. And it wasn't long before I got a call from the head game warden. He said, "Hey, we're going. You want to go with us?" I said, "Well, sure." So they sent them down to the Ninth Ward. You've heard about the lower Ninth Ward. Well, that's where everybody's getting shot at, and that's where they sent them because they had airboats to get back in these areas. And of course, they were law enforcement. So the only bad thing about this, or one of the bad things about it, was they all had their bulletproof vests on. I'm standing up in front of the airboat with a big orange life preserver on that kind of says "Shoot me first." So and there were shots going on. So it was again a very surreal kind of a dream. And Harvey, you guys, had Harvey. We started using drones a lot for the hurricane efforts. The drones did a couple of things. Of course, it provided a perspective, the aerial perspective. It's a way of looking at things you don't normally see that way, and it could really, show the devastation a lot more. Is also useful in search and rescue. the drone program at Parks and Wildlife just really took off. Well, pardon the pun. In the last years I was there, so now every game warden region has their own drone pilot, and they're used quite extensively in search and rescue now. We had used helicopters for years for our photography and video. Obviously, it's expensive, but they had it in the budget. And then I guess, was it 12 years ago? I told the supervisor, let's try one of these new drone things. And they said, "Well, those things are toys. You don't use one of those. Well, let's just try it." So we had an assignment that went out and used a drone on, and we actually got better photography and video from that than we had ever gotten from the helicopter. So after that, there was no turning back. The drones got better, the sensors got better, the video and the still photography got better. I'm still using drones now. And again, they provide a very unique perspective that you don't normally see things from. And I'll end with this to show that the greatest part about being a photographer at Parks and Wildlife was that I got to travel around the state. I got to see it with its best faces and its worst faces. And for a split second, while I snapped the shutter, I really felt like, I was there. Part of me was there permanently, and that's what the photograph does. It's such a wonderful reminder that every time I look at it, it's like being there again. And I think you probably have a lot of the same reaction. When you look at a picture, you remember everything about the moment you took the picture, the smells, the light. It's all of that's preserved indelibly in your mind, and that's the beauty of photograph. And just let me close by saying that that's what I tried to do, was to take engaging photographs, something that would tell the story using photography that people could relate to, something that would let them feel the air, hear the sounds. And ultimately, I think that's the success of a photograph, is one that doesn't just show somebody what you saw, but allows them to feel what you felt when you took it. That's what makes a good photograph. And guys, I think that is the end of my show. I'm gonna hit stop sharing, and there we are, back to real life. So, a lot of the images that you saw there, those are just a few of the 200 images that are in the book. Mm-hmm. And hopefully I had taken a good representative sample of just a little bit of everything that was around the state. And mainly, I hope it was very engaging to people. And
Earl, what kind of equipment did you use?
Okay, pretty much a Canon shooter. We started out Nikon. I was raised with Nikon. I love Nikon. We had worked out a deal with Canon several years back, and they donated a lot of equipment. So I pretty much shot Canon. It's amazing. We went through so many different bodies. Of course, actually, our first digital camera was the Nikon D1, and we paid $5,000 for it, and it had a whopping, I think, 3 megapixels. It's a nice heavy camera, man. It was very professionally made, and that enabled us to get about a 1/4 page resolution for the magazine, 3 megapixels, and then it got to be 6, and then finally 8 megapixels, which enabled us to do a full page shot. And then what I consider the gold standard of resolution was 16 megapixels, which gave us a double page spread in the magazine. And of course, after that, now it's, the sky's the limit. We're 24 and 50 now. So resolution and color quality has met and exceeded what we could do with film. And that was one of the big aha moments for me, was when I compared the color resolution and the pixels to film. And when the digital exceeded the film, then again, there was no turning back.
Mhm.
And it just keeps getting better. There's so much information on that raw file, especially.
Mhm.
You can just do wonders with it. So yeah, shooting Canon. Again, went through a lot of different bodies. I think the last one was the 1DX Mark II. But interestingly, I kept a lot of the original lenses that we always had, because you buy a good glass up front, your glass is what lasts. It makes all the difference in the world. The I shot what they call the Holy Trinity: the 16 to 35, the 24 to 70, and then the 70 to 200. Those are your three go-to lenses they call the Trinity. And then
Hmm.
we had longer 300 2.8 and the 500 4. But yeah, the Canon glass was great. But right now, I think if anybody's starting, gosh, there's so many good products out there. The other guy, Nikon, Sony especially. Oh goodness, the stuff that they're coming out with is just gorgeous.
Did you ever
So
did you ever shoot with mirrorless cameras?
yes, I have. In fact, I'm kind of testing the Sony ecosystem here right now.
Ah, okay.
It's the A7R4. Um, I'm gonna start doing more landscape photos. So I wanted the higher pixel image. Um, things about the Sonys I like, things I don't like. The menu systems on Sony aren't quite as user friendly as Canon.
They're terrible.
But say again, somebody there?
No, I Sony menus are awful. I'm a Nikon shooter, and I do have some
Yeah.
Sonys, but my God,
Yeah. They do some great things. But Canon is coming out with some great stuff. I just don't know if Canon has arrived yet. They've got some good mirrorless products out there, but I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Now, one thing I am doing is using some of my Canon glass on the Sony body, and that works nicely. Yeah, via an adapter. So
Mhm.
that's a consideration.
Thing I like about the Sony mirrorless is it went from 3 pounds of camera to less than 1. So when you're walking around with a camera at our age, or at least at my age,
Mhm.
it gains weight with every mile. So it's nice to start off kind of light.
You're absolutely right, and that's one of the things I'm looking for. I mean, I'm not the spring chicken I used to be, and when you're hiking out there, you want some lightweight. Now, having said that, I actually pulled up some of my old Nikon lenses from the 1970s. My first Nikon was a Nikon F with a 35 millimeter film with a photomic head on it. And my favorite lens was a 55 millimeter micro, they call it the micro lens. It's a macro lens. So 3.5. But I got it blew the dust off of it and compared it to the Sony lenses and the Canon lenses, and it was sharper. So there's some golden oldies out there. So having said all, it's so much fun. There's so many tools out there, and unfortunately, we get wrapped up in the tools too much, the equipment. Let's say having a case of gas, GAS, gear acquisition syndrome. I've got a closet full of it right now. I have to keep reminding myself that it's not the gear, it's not the gear. You get there at those times of day, get the light. I have to fight that. I think, God, I got to. We're going to Arizona here next month. I'm trying to get out of Texas. I've been in Texas for the last 25 years, so I need to try some different areas. So we're going out to the Sonoran Desert, and I'm trying to convince myself that I need that Sony 20 millimeter 1.8 for my star shots. So
so you're doing star photography also.
oh, I'm doing everything.
You're doing everything?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's a playground. Photography is a playground. I do. Again, I have to start shooting all new stuff. All of my photography belonged to the state, Texas Parks and Wildlife. So
Mhm.
anything I'm going to do on my own, I've got to start from scratch. So
So you
uh,
never get back those rights?
no, they're copyrighted by Texas Parks and Wildlife. Yep.
Yeah,
No, they allow me to use the images for marketing the book or marketing myself. Yeah, I can use them, but I can't sell them. So, and that's fine because what I like to do is kind of start up with Earl version 2.0 as far as the type of photography I do. I want to see things a little bit different. I would like to see things a little more fine art now. See, so much of what I've been doing is just the documentation and the pretty sharp pictures. I'd like to do something a little artsy fartsy, as they say. So, one thing you were talking about Santa Fe. Uh, a couple months ago, I went up there and took a workshop on making um, platinum prints using the old 1800s process to use platinum and palladium to make these gorgeous archival prints, and that's so much fun because it's so organic and just visceral, and it makes just beautiful, beautiful prints. And so I want to do more of that and do more of the fine art type thing. Uh, I'm still shooting some magazine assignments. Um, I'm doing some real estate photography of all things. These guys who sell these big mega ranches, I'll do a production for them with the landscape photography and the video, and then we'll put that in a production package, and they can market the property with that. And so that's basically something I've always been doing with the landscape work. So uh, I like it all. Again, I'm a generalist. I don't want to be rubber stamped into one type of
Earl,
photography. Yeah.
Earl, switching from equipment to process. As a photographer of the state of Texas, you were charged with presenting Texas as it is. How much post-processing could you do on a photograph, and how much post-processing did you do on any of your photographs?
Good question. And the way I'm going to answer that, um, people use the word manipulation a lot too, which kind of is in that same post-processing picture. Do you manipulate your images? And I answer that by going back further. As photographers, we've always manipulated images. Case in point, um, by the lens choice from going from wide angle to a telephoto, we narrowed down the angle. We made it look the perspective a little bit different, a little bit better. Example: we could shoot a landscape in Kodachrome film, uh, or we could shoot it with Fujichrome slide film or Ektachrome, and they all looked different. They were all manipulated. Which one is the real one? I mean, are we a purist? I mean, was one the real way of seeing it? Uh, the colors were all different. So yeah, I mean, I shot Kodachrome for years, but then for landscape, I started with Ektachrome 4x5 with a view camera. It did a beautiful natural looking image, what you'd call a natural looking image. And then Fujichrome came out with the enhanced greens. They may not have been totally natural, but they jumped out at you. The saturation was higher. So yes, I do post-processing. I add some saturation. I make an image look more like a Fujichrome sometimes. Other times I may want it to look more like an Ektachrome. No, there's some ethical boundaries you don't cross. So, I mean, I never put in anything that wasn't there. If there was a landscape, I didn't add a mountain to it. Or if it was a deer, I didn't make the antlers bigger than they were. But yes, I would do some of the manipulations that we always did. I would lighten or darken the image. I would add contrast. I would add saturation, or may decrease saturation. Uh, so yeah. There's with a digital image, there's always post-processing to be done, and that's the beauty of the raw file. They call the raw file a digital negative, and the reason is, if you ever worked with an old color negative in photography, you could take a negative and you could send it to one lab and they would make a print and it would look one way. You'd send that same negative to another lab and it would look a different way. It was depending on who was operating the printer at that time. by darkening a print, the same negative, you change the mood to it. You can make a somber feel. By lightening the exposure, you can make a lighter feel. So yeah, to answer your question, yeah, post-processing is wonderful. I think post-processing is 50% of working with it. So many times I'll be out and I'll shoot a picture, as a JPEG, and you look out in the screen, it's got a bright sky, almost a white sky, and there's black shadows. And you go, yeah, it doesn't look good. But you know very well what can be done with that raw file when you bring it back in the lab. You pull up those shadows, you bring down those highlights, and while it may be manipulating things, it's bringing it back to the way your human eye saw it in the first place. So you can match that to how your eye sees it. I don't know if that answers your question about post-processing, but yeah, I think probably 90% of what I shot was post-processed. Yeah.
I think post-processing helps you to present how you felt, how the picture affected you, even though, because the film doesn't see the same as your eyes.
Exactly.
And so you got to correct for it. My husband, who's not a photographer particularly, thinks it's cheating. So I'm saying, no, this is how I see it in my head.
Sure. I mean, Ansel Adams, black and white. Well, black and white's not natural. It's just a different way of seeing it. Now, as far as post-processing, when we start getting into HDR, there's some beautiful HDR images out there. People who do it very well. I only do HDR enough to get to the point where it looks real to me, realistic. I don't overdo it with the auras around the edges and the stuff like that. You can overdo any kind of post processing. But yeah, I'd use HDR just enough to make it look like you say, the way Emily, the way that I want it to look. Another post-processing thing that gets overdone a lot is sharpening. I mean, I guess people see that slider and they think, well, if a little bit is good, well, then a lot is better. That's one of the big problems when I'm judging a photo contest is over sharpening and oversaturation. I don't know why, but now, if that's the way the photographer saw it, more power to them. I'm a big fan of letting photographers see things with their eye, not mine. I knew a photo editor one time who, he would throw out other guys' photographs because it didn't look like the way he would do it. Well, I think, vive la difference. Everybody is an artist in their own way, and there's so many beautiful things that come out of everybody's individual eye. I mean, I love to see what people do. But, anyway.
Errol, what about filters and tripods?
Okay. Well, I used to use filters a lot when I was shooting transparency film, 4x5 with my view camera or slides. With the slide, what you see is what you get. There's no post-processing with a slide. It's you'd get them and you either had it or you didn't. So you had to get it in camera. So if I wanted to add some warmth to the sky, I would have to add filtration, usually like an 81 filter, a little warming filter or something like that. Or if I was shooting black and white, if I wanted a darker sky, I would use a yellow or an orange filter to make the sky darker and bring the clouds out. But now with digital, no, I don't. The only time I've have to use filters is to use a neutral density filter when I'm shooting video to slow down the shutter speed. But or if I have an effect, I want to the clouds to stretch out in the sky. I need a long exposure, 10 or 20-second exposure in the daytime. I'll use a 10-stop neutral density filter, but I don't use a lot of color. I don't use any color correction. I try to keep filters off the camera. As a matter of fact, you get into more trouble by having a filter on the camera, even a UV filter. So much of the best light you can get is backlit. Some subject is backlit or side lit. that light coming in from behind them, like the little girl with the rooster had the sun coming behind her. That would be real easy for the sun to flare on your lens. And if you have a filter on the front, you're really going to get the possibility of flare building up is really enhanced. So I don't use a filter. I protect my lens with the lens cap. When I get ready to take a picture, I take the lens cap off, and then I put it right back on. And I use the lens shade too to get rid of any flare.
Earl, what about a polarizing filter? Do you ever use those?
You know what? I have the only time I'd use a polarized filter is if there's a body of water that I've got to get a reflection, that I want to get a reflection off of. But no, I don't use a polarizer anymore, especially with the wide angle. You know how you get that funky looking sky with a wide angle lens? Part of it's polarized, and then part of it's not polarized, and you can tell it's polarized. There's a little magical slider now in Lightroom and Photoshop, and that is the dehaze slider. And if you haven't played with that, find a sky that looks kind of boring and milky and hit that little dehaze slider, and all of a sudden your sky turns a beautiful, realistic blue. And you can overdo it, but there's a fine point where that dehaze really looks nice. So I'll use that in lieu of a
Well,
polarizer.
I'm kind of a klutz, and UV filters have saved my butt a couple of times when I dropped my camera.
Yeah,
And I had to only replace the filter as opposed to the whole
right.
lens.
Well, that's why they make lens shades, plastic lens shades. In fact, Canon designs their lens shades to absorb a certain amount of G-force, and then for the lens shade to pop off before the lens. So no, I understand. Yeah, and it's yeah, I know plenty of lenses have been saved. But if you're not using a lens shade as a professional, you need to be using a lens shade a lot, and that gets us to the tripod thing too. A lens shade and a tripod are a wonderful combination. Now, having said that, the newer lenses with the internal stabilization on them can really save your rear end, especially if it's combined with the stabilization on your body, the internal stabilization for the body and for the lens. The camera companies, they claim, 5 to 8 stops of stabilization. In reality, you'll probably get maybe 3, 4 max, but that enables you to shoot at, let's say normally where you shoot at a 60th of a second, 30th, 15th, 8th, quarter. You can hand hold it about a quarter of a second, where before you could only hand hold it at a 60th of a second with a 50 millimeter lens. So anytime you can use the stabilization, that can keep you from using a tripod at some certain points. But just know, practice and look at close up, zoom in on the images, and know the limitations of what shutter speed you can shoot that particular lens with, the minimum shutter speed. The other beauty of a tripod, though, is that, and I tell this to beginning photographers a lot, is that use the tripod because what it does, it anchors the camera down. It forces you to concentrate on that one frame there in front of you. And you're imagining that frame is up on your wall. It's a finished print up on your wall. And so you can see the delicate changes then, but when you do move the camera, all the little nuance changes. It's that old difference that Ansel said, you're making a picture, not taking a picture. So many times we go out with our camera and let's go take some pictures. So bam, 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 and you're getting snapshots. You want to change that mindset to be a craftsman, to make a picture. So you're consciously thinking more about the composition, the lighting, the colors, all of it. And that's a mindset to try to keep, is to make a picture, not just take a picture.
Earl, what
So
do
you can add both, you can use both the in camera and the in lens at the same time, because I thought that was a no-no.
No, what you're referring to is using the stabilization while it's on a tripod.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, if you're hand holding it, you can use all the stabilization options you have to you, whether it's the lens and or the body. You use those. But yeah, the old warning was you don't want to use a stabilization on a tripod because it kind of searches. It doesn't know it's on a tripod. It searches. That's what they have different modes on the lenses that mitigate some of that though. Most of your longer lenses will have like a number 1, 2, and 3 stabilization mode, and the number 3 mode is still stabilization, but it will work on a tripod. Now your smaller, your wider lenses don't have those 3 options. It's just either on or off stabilization. In that case, you want to turn it off. So you don't want that stabilization with a tripod, especially during the slow exposure, 15th, 8th of a second, because it's kind of searching. It's like it doesn't know it's on a tripod.
Yeah. Earl, what about your settings? When
Say again?
What about your settings? Are you using auto ISO? Are you manually setting everything? Do you put it into shutter priority or?
Okay, it depends what I'm shooting. If it's a kind of a photojournalistic, thing where you're running and gunning, and I would more often than not, I would use aperture priority.
Mm-hmm.
I would have a fixed ISO. Always kept my ISO as low as possible. Aperture was generally like 4, 5, 6, and I lock the aperture and then just shoot whatever I need to shoot. But keep an eye on your shutter speed, because if I'm shooting people, I know what kind of shutter speed I need to stop them. So for just running around, people shots, scenery, travel photography, stuff like that, I would use aperture priority. That's what I'd use probably about 80% of the time. Now on landscape things, I go strictly manual. Because now I'm more concerned about the depth of field. I know I need to start getting down there about f8, 11, sometimes 16. So at 16, low light, you got to have a tripod. So I try not to push the ISO up much. These great cameras, you can go higher up in the ISO. I'll do my sky photography, 1250, 2500. The new cameras, gosh, you go 6400, 30, the sky's the limit, pardon the pun. But for landscape work, for the absolute sharpest, I keep the ISO down to 100 and then just use a tripod as much as possible.
Excellent.
Did that answer that question?
Yeah, no, it did, because there's always, you go on some of these workshops and like everything's in manual. You look at the highlights and stuff, but you're sitting there paying so much attention to the back of the camera that it's all going, you miss the shot because of it. So
yeah, well, and that is a valid point. You do want to watch the highlights, and that's what you judge your exposure by, is the highlights. That's a very good point. Yeah. So I will shoot the image, and especially on the landscape, I'll use the little highlight warnings that you have on there, the zebras, whatever. That is a great tool, because anything that's, you see that zebra or the highlight warning, you've lost all detail in those whites. And that's one of the little secrets here on a landscape shot, is that you want to have detail in the brightest portions and in the darkest portions. So the old saw is you expose for the highlights and you develop for the shadows. That was in the darkroom days. But you still expose for the highlights. So if you're on manual, if you see a highlight warning, you back off on exposure, either shutter, usually a shutter speed, or you can do it by aperture, but I'll do it by shutter speed, just where you don't see that anymore. That way you're assured that you've got detail in there. And that's what makes you look at a picture and can almost touch it. It's almost 3-dimensional, because it's especially like, fabric or something white, ice, snow, you can see little ice crystals in there. So, people say, well, if you darken it down, then the dark areas go too dark. Well, yeah, they do, but in post processing, you've got so much information still down there in those shadows that you can bring up. So it's easier to bring those shadows up than it is to bring the highlight, or to underexpose the highlights. You just don't want to underexpose them. So yeah, use that any kind of those warnings you can have, and that will really help you get some more realistic images.
watch the histogram on the back of the camera too.
Watch it, learn your histogram. Learn it, love it. I say
Yeah.
on the histogram. The histogram is your friend, because see, on a bright day, you look at that picture on the back and you can't tell because it's so bright outside. Well, is that exposed right? Or if you're shooting night skies at night, the converse is it looks so bright. Well, I can't tell. But the histogram will always tell you exactly what's going on.
Yeah.
And as long as you've got, it's always going to be uneven, but as long as they're contained within the outer boundaries, I call it between the goalposts, you've got a usable image that you can get a good final result out of.
Are there any other questions for Earl?
I just need him to talk about where we can get his book.
Okay.
Oh, where you? Well, I sent you got some links. Amazon has them, and Texas A&M Press has them.
Now, if you go to our website and go to the programs page, I posted a link to his book.
Oh,
And Earl, we also talked about people getting your signature.
Oh yeah, I got a cool thing here. I can let's see. Hold on just a second here. I got these cool little book plates here. And, people had asked me, well, I can't drive all the way to the temple to sign it. So what I do, these are, I can write these out and mail them to you. I'll be more than happy to do that for anybody. And it has adhesive back, and you put it on the front page of the book inside. And
okay.
anyway, little archival book plates. So they were kind of cool. So
That is cool.
no, I'd be happy to. For
Earl,
anybody.
does your book go over the different parks, the more picturesque parks, and kind of rank them in a sense?
We don't rank them. There's more park pictures in there. Yeah, there are about 200 images in the book, and again, it's broken into wild places, the wild things, and then people. So yeah, there are quite a few different parks in there, but there's no ranking to them. It's just I just hope that each shot would be engaging in its own way. We had very short descriptions. The introduction of the book has quite a bit of information about.
How many state parks are there in Texas, out of curiosity?
I think they're about there were 125. I think there's maybe 110 now.
Okay.
Yeah, and a lot of them, like I say, are historical parks. So and some are state natural areas. So it's kind of an overlap in what you would consider a park. But yeah, a lot of properties to manage.
Yeah.
Excellent. Connie, did you have any last words?
I just wanted to thank Earl for spending this time with us, and you did really well. You were worried about coughing all the way through. You did good.
Well, and I haven't coughed yet. This is cool.
Yeah, you did really good.
I've
We're
been
the only
holding-
ones going.
I tell you what, have any of you guys had this Omicron thing yet?
Yeah, we've got, I know Bill Barry did. He's on here somewhere.
Okay. Man, just starts sore throat, fever, lethargy, just flu-like symptoms. It's crazy. Luckily, it's not too bad. So
I've had 5 or 6 neighbors that have had it, and none of them had much of a case. A little soreness, loss of appetite, and mainly tired.
Yeah,
tired.
Well, that's not always the case, though. I've known 2 guys in my golf group who've gone to the hospital. So,
Yeah. Oh no. I've got friends that, and I don't know if it's Omicron or full blown COVID, but a couple of them actually died. So yeah.
My son had it, and his first clue was that that pizza tasted like cardboard.
Yeah.
Ooh, well, luckily that didn't happen. Yeah, I made a point of tasting everything. I could still taste it. So
I think the original Omicron, you lost your taste of sense of taste and smell.
Yeah. It's crazy world, but
it is.
Glad that you
well,
did
yeah.
well.
Thank y'all so much.
Thank you, Earl.
Thank you, Earl.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, and hey,
Yeah.
got any questions? Get me. I'm earl.nottingham@gmail. Very easy to remember. My name, separated by a dot and Gmail.
Okay.
Okay.
Facebook.
He's also on Facebook, guys.
Is he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Earl.
Okay, thank y'all so
All right,
much.
thank
and
you
I,
so
I'm
much,
gonna head
Earl.
out of here tonight.
See you, Earl.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Adios.
We do not have many, if you look, we do not have many share and learns. So I've asked Chris Summers to talk about a procedure he did to create starbursts in using Photoshop. And then I think there's the rest of the meeting is going to go very, very quickly. So let's go ahead and do the share and learn.
Hey, Kathy,
Yeah.
one thing first, we do have one of our new members is here tonight. He
Oh,
has
really?
tuned in. That's Sam Whitener.
Yeah, they
What-
were formerly members years ago.
Oh, were they?
Him and
Okay,
Renee.
great. Okay, well, very good. We're glad you're back with us then.
Where
Thank you.
is he? Is he on here still?
Oh, there he
Yeah,
is.
he's here.
Hey,
He just
Sam.
waved to us.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
I see a few familiar faces.
Do you?
Good.
How many years ago were you part of the club?
It may have been 4 or 5.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, it's always nice to see people come back.
Mhm.
Well,
But y'all
I
moved
was-
out of the area, didn't you, Sam? Y'all like over in the Woodlands or something?
No, we didn't move or anything, but I got the feeling one day, I just woke up and said, I'm addicted to Flickr.
Ah.
And I had to step away. I said, I'm going to take some time off. And before I knew it, it was 5 years.
So you're no longer addicted to Flickr.
Well, no, I'm not.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
good.
I've been taking pictures, but I haven't posted them anywhere.
Okay,
Um,
well,
But
you
I
could
want to
at
get back
least,
into it.
share and learn is a good way. It's not Flickr,
Yeah.
but it would be a good way to share some of your photos. Okay, so Starburst, this is a new low. We, in the years that I've been president, I don't think we've had more than one other month that we had so few. And I had to send out an SOS to several people who thank you very much for coming up and sending your photos in. The only 2 people that actually sent them in early was Chris Summers and Steve Hansen. So thank you.
You're kidding. I was one of the first.
Yes. Yes, you were.
I thought I was.
Well, Kathy, I sent mine in
Oh,
early.
wait, no,
but
and Jim.
Straight to
Jim,
you.
Yes,
not
Jim
through
is the other one.
Dropbox.
So there were 3 that sent them in early and the rest of them were SOSs, like, please, So let's go on. We'll start with Chris.
Oh, that's cool.
And Chris, let me, after you go through your photos, do you want me to give you the screen so you could go over your PowerPoint?
Why don't you wait till everyone's done and then come back to me and I'll show you a little tutorial that I created a little PowerPoint to show
okay.
the steps. Okay.
All right, that sounds good.
I can do that at the end. It's about 4 or 5 minutes. So.
All right.
Okay. Yeah. So this is my son, Liam. We were up in Alaska fishing, and this was the stage of his life where he was sort of in the Jeremiah Johnson living in the outdoors of Alaska stage. He looked like the trapper. And we were fishing for salmon, and we kept getting hung up on this little rock bed. They were out there in the river, and he said, "Oh, I'm going to wade out there." And I'm like, "Yeah, this is fed off of a snow melt, He lasted about 30 minutes in that cold water, but I got this shot and I was shooting with about a 70 to 200 maxed out. And I think I was shooting into the sun. So I was probably at f/16 or 22, which is perfect. And I got all these highlights, and in color, it had this dull green. There was the foliage, everything else looked black and white. So I just said, hey, make it a black and white. But I love all the highlights. I love the rim lighting around him and on the rod and the wire, the line and the little, you can see his spoon out there on the end. And it just was a nice shot. That's totally in camera. It was just, hey, it worked. So sometimes in camera is the way to do it.
That is really gorgeous.
So my next shot, okay, so I got to thinking about, hey, there's got to be a filter. You can got to be able to do this in a program. So I looked at Luminar and On1 and Topaz and Lightroom, and I said, is there like just a little stamp filter? No, I couldn't find one. So I said, okay, I'm going to Google. I'm going to go to the University of Google, and I'm going to see. And sure enough, found a couple Photoshop videos on YouTube. And yeah, so you can create this. This is a 4-point star. And this was a guy in Aruba, a lot of backlighting. It's a little busy where he's got the splash, but it's still kind of cool. Just a real nice starburst there.
So that's just a brush, right?
Yeah, it's a motion blur.
Okay. Okay.
And the next shot, I wanted to do a 6-point blur. The other one was a 4-point. And I thought, well, so if you do a 6-point, you have to add in 2 more steps because you've done 45 this way, 45 that way, 90, 180, whatever, and sign of the cross. And so this was also in Aruba where the last shot was, and this was drinks on the deck of some restaurant we were at. And I just liked this, and I thought, well, what about the sun? I could do a specular highlight kind of thing with the sun, make it a starburst. So I just took it through the same steps, but I had to add 2 more to get the extra cross patterns, and it worked out quite nicely. So it just shows you can do it in Photoshop, and I will, after this other part of the share and learn, I'll be happy to just do a quick explanation.
Okay.
Well, I have to say my obsessive compulsive means that glass on the right should have been back just a little.
I think it should be in my hand. I think it should be in my hand.
I think that was, my wife had the apple martini. I had the classic. So.
That was the classic. Okay. Chuck.
This is with Connie and David will recognize this one.
And it's a real starburst, though.
That is a real starburst. No faking on that one. And it's more than 6 points, as you can see. But we were with a Navajo guide at the time, fantastic guy. I was standing one place. He told me move about 5 feet to your right. And I moved about 5 feet to my right. He knew exactly where to stand. I mean, exactly where to stand. And so and sure enough, this thing happened. It was a sunrise. This was on our trails. That's not faked either. That's a real starburst, probably East End Park.
Yeah.
Again, Connie and David will recognize this one. And I just we were out there that night, and I just moved around until I could get the sun just peeking around the side of that.
How did you get so many rays on it? What lens were you using?
I don't remember the lens exactly, but it's it's just the way it is. I mean, that's it. Not obviously it's shadows and highlights and all that stuff. It's close to having a camera, but it's not. Me.
I think it's a function of how many blades are in there.
How many blades? It is a function number of the blades, and that's why I say I don't remember. It's I use Nikon, and that was probably my wide angle 16 to 35.
Okay,
that's what I was saying.
That's a beautiful shot, Chuck.
Yeah.
I added all 5 of them, Chuck, since I was so low.
Yeah. So this is East End Park, early morning walking around. Chris will probably recognize this.
For him, huh?
Yeah. It's another East End Park, and Chris will recognize this too. He replaces all the boards. Well, I'm sure you replaced most of the boards in this thing.
Oh,
thank you.
Yeah, they have. David.
Okay, this is Hunts Mesa, right there by the Monument Valley. So we got up early one morning. We spent the night up there in a tent, and then when Chuck was up there with us too, and so that was with a 16 to 35 Canon though. And this is the Yellowstone when we were at the Yellowstone.
Oh, that's beautiful.
The snow.
That's nice, David.
And guess where this is? It's like Monument Valley to me.
5 feet to the right of Chuck.
Yeah, he pushed me out of the way to get this one.
Yeah.
I think I was in between y'all, but you don't see mine, do you?
The clouds look really familiar too.
Yeah, I took mine a little earlier than his, apparently. Mine's a little darker than his, so I was might take mine a little earlier than he did.
Emily.
This is what I call woulda, shoulda, coulda. And this is at River Grove Park before Harvey. And I wish I had taken at least a few shots with a high enough f-stop to get that sun to starburst, but it was still interesting in that it was coming through the fog and all the critters were coming out, and it was still pretty awesome just to be there.
Yeah, that is very cool. I like the moodiness of the photo.
Yeah, that's
Emily, I'm curious, in that tree, is there a heron or something in there?
Yeah, there's a heron.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Good eyes, dear.
Yeah, nice shot. Pretty picture.
We don't need a starburst there.
Oh man, this makes everybody feel cold.
And this is this is just in honor of winter.
Winter.
This is up in upstate New York. And I just saw this wonderful old wagon or whatever the heck it is, or two, I don't know what it is.
It's
Looks
a
like,
Herald.
It's a hay
okay,
rake.
okay.
rag.
Yeah,
Yep.
hay rake.
Okay.
Hmm.
And then this was in my backyard. He was just too cute. I call it, I got my toes wet. Because if you look at his toes, they look at funny angles because they're in the water, you know, the two bottom toes. But he was just so cute. I just wanted to pinch him. He was so cute.
So, Jim.
Yeah, this, I don't usually take Starburst. This was at Clearwater Beach, my son marrying wife number 2. And I took a bunch of pictures. It was right at sunset. And there,
Was there starfish pathway?
I think that's right. Yeah.
Real ones?
No, well, dead ones.
Well, yeah. Oh, you didn't trade them to come in here?
That's kind of
But
cool.
that's as close as I came to a Starbucks. But I tell you one thing, this share and learn, I'm going to be looking closer at Starburst opportunities.
They're not that difficult to do, but for whatever reason, you do have to be intentional about them.
Yeah.
This was from South Dakota, right, Steve?
Yep. So this is Bear Butte, and when we were up there, the first day early, when Kathy and Mike and I went up there. So this is so I got a little bit of a starburst or a sunburst down here, but I don't think I had the right settings. I didn't have a high enough f-stop to really get a whole lot out of it, but managed to get a little bit of a lens flare on there. But
that's what you know when you're.
And this is the Tim Sullivan challenge at the Needle's Eye, trying to get a sunburst out of it. So we played around with it. I don't know whether Tim, you got any from that area, but we were trying to do it
in a second.
Okay, so we're doing both inside for the top of the eye and the bottom of the eye, and then outside. So we were trying to, I don't know, I'd never tried to overlap all of them in the same picture, but that would be kind of neat to do.
That might be cool.
Yep.
Yeah.
Looks good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Tim.
All right. So
nice.
You guys have probably seen this one before. I realized that after I submitted it that I had submitted it once before, but the trees challenge, I think, previously. But this is East End Park. Wandering through the north side somewhere.
Okay. And here we go. But yours is
there you go. Mine's in the middle.
Yay!
So it was kind of fun because you can move around wherever you wanted to be and move that starburst.
Now, when I tried to get this one, I ended up getting a lot of flare. You didn't get any flare with yours.
I got a little bit kind of to the I guess upper right of that, but I kind of tried to clone it out or just fade, but not too much.
Okay. And this is nice.
And then
your daughter?
Yes, that is Castaway Cay, Disney's private beach that you go to on their cruise. And my daughter reading a book on the beach and starburst through the trees.
Above her, yeah. Very nice.
So how do you tell your daughter that we concentrated on the sun, not her?
Mike?
Well, I was impressed that Jim got stars, even though it wasn't a starburst.
Okay, this is in Hawaii.
Oh, stars, yeah. Mike.
At one of our sunset pictures. They're actually, Kathy got these together for me. And I don't know that it's got much of a starburst, but anyway, it's got a little bit of a start of one.
That is the Big Island. And this particular bay here, when the waves come into the Big Island, this is where you see the surfers come out. And one photographer actually built a viewing stand so he could set up his big photography telephoto lens and all. It was over to the right. But this was a calmer day. And
sometimes can you, if you decrease the highlights, you can bring out a starburst, can't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really didn't do any post-processing with Mike's pictures. This is out of the camera.
And this was our trip to Yellowstone.
Yeah.
There.
Oh,
We got some really great winter shots there. It had a lot of snow in Yellowstone, so we had all kinds of opportunities.
That was a really nice trip.
Yeah,
Connie
it really was.
and
Yeah.
Dave organized that. That was really a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Also, another one of my speakers later on this year.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah,
That's a
Barbara.
nice shot.
I have Barbara talking.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
She's at the end of the year, but she'll talk Alaska.
Oh, that would be nice.
Yeah.
And this is Maui.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A nice picture.
Thank you.
Okay, so then it goes to me. Normandy coast, France.
Yeah.
You can't see the ocean, but the ocean is over here. And this is close to where Omaha Beach and all of the fighting occurred during World War II. And this is the sun going down, and I'm not sure what the plants are in front, but I liked the line of trees and the sunset. It was very clear sky. This was last week. I was in Kennedy Space Center with my sister. She moved, bought a townhouse in Cape
nice.
Canaveral, and I got to see the SpaceX rock go up.
yes.
and the booster return. So, but this is the rocket grotto or something, and everyone is leaving, and I love the shadows and then the starbursts on one of the rockets.
I think that's pretty neat.
Everybody, this was like the, time to leave, you need to go. So now this, I have a story with this one, which indulge me with this, but this is the Arches National Park, the landscape arch, and I belong to a photo boot camp, and they chose my photo and they chose me as the featured artist for their November magazine.
Wow.
Yeah, way to go.
There you go.
Oh, the Brent Mail. Yeah.
Mike did this picture of me, and you can tell it's one of the bridges in New York. So I had to do a write-up and all. They had questions for me to answer. And if I can open up this, see if I can go back and open up well, maybe I can't. Anyway, I have a PDF of the magazine that I can put online. I thought I had earlier, but it didn't seem to work. But anyway, that was a real surprise when they contacted me and said, yeah, we'd really like you. So they featured like 4 or 5 of my other photos that I sent to them, and I answered questions, and it was to me, it was a big deal.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Oh, thank you. And I'll just talk about this real quick, and then I'll give the screen to Chris. So February 15th is our next meeting. Astrophotography by Richard, is it Wilborn?
It's Will, W-I-L, Wilborn.
Oh, okay, I'll change that. And the Share and Learn is going to be street captures, which also goes along with the photo walk that you just had. But I think hopefully I'll get a few more than 27 photos next month. Hint, hint. And then March will be action shots. And since we're doing the rodeo, and action shots can be anything, Steve Hansen's very good at action shots. So just think about February street captures, and March is going to be action shots.
And so go along with that, Kathy, with action shots. This is the season for Kingwood High soccer. So if anybody wants to get involved with taking pictures of the varsity, junior varsity, I shoot the boys varsity, but have done some JV stuff as well. Talked to the coaches, and they said, sure, if others want to come take pictures, they would be more than happy to allow you to be on the sidelines to take pictures. So I know
And if anybody wants to do action shots of dogs racing, not dog racing, but it's a competitive sport, I can tell you that also.
Oh, okay. So maybe we could get some of that information, put it into a post to put on our website and in the Facebook.
Okay.
Just send it to me and I'll put it together.
Okay.
Okay. Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you, Chris.
I'm going to do a real quick thing here. I just have to find it. Here it is. We're going to say share, and we're going to click on that. Is that opening? All right. Oh, the slideshow. It takes me a second. I'm learning. Okay. So, hey, creating a starburst effect with Adobe Photoshop in 400 easy to follow steps. Okay. I'm just kidding. It's more like 12 steps. And some of us who do a lot of photo editing all day, we probably need a 12-step program at some point. So here we go. Okay. So the first thing is you want to choose an image with some specular highlights that are going to make
Okay, Chris, nothing's showing up.
Yeah, Chris, nothing, we're not showing the.
Okay, you are screen sharing.
You are screen sharing.
But it hadn't gone to the slideshow.
Okay.
You probably have it on the wrong screen.
See if it's behind it.
Well, when I click on it, okay, let me go back. I'm sorry. We'll try again.
You sometimes
okay.
get the
Screen
wrong
share.
screen. Yeah.
Screen. Is that it? Share.
Make sure you're choosing the right screen if you've got two
Yeah,
screens.
it's a little confusing. Am I choosing a screen you can see or not?
Right now it says it just has started screen sharing. It's blank.
Okay.
You have several screens.
I'm working on my laptop, so it's a little. I don't want to send a Zoom report in. Let's try it again. It's Zoom quit unexpectedly. I don't know what that means.
Yeah, that would do it. Oh. Except we can hear you.
Good.
Don't send. It keeps wanting to send that. All right. So I'm going to try again. Share screen. Creating a starburst effect. Share. Do you see anything?
No.
No.
Oh,
yeah, now we do.
Okay. Well, I'm on number 10, so let me just click back. Hold on. Okay. Now do you see it?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. I don't know what I did differently, but it seems to be showing up. So, like I said, pick a picture. This one, I thought some specular highlights in the foreground were good with the street lights. And I'm going to mask out the area above. So, okay, so we go to this. And when you move it from Lightroom into Photoshop, the first thing, of course, you want to always do is make a copy. You never work on your base layer. And down at the bottom of the layers panel, there's a little circle that's half black, half white. And that's where you can choose some different choices there. It's kind of like walking into the supermarket. It's a little intimidating, like the cereal aisle that has 500 choices. But here you're going to choose levels. And I chose levels because the lady who did the video I watched said choose levels. And it opened a little preview window with a histogram. And what you do is move the left slider. And if you look in this picture on the right, I really decreased the brightness to try and get some of the extraneous white lights out. I only really want to get in these bottom lights. So then I click on the next image. You go to your tools panel and choose a very large brush. Remember the cardinal rule, black conceals and white reveals. So in the black mode, paint over. And here I'm going to go to my little, I think you guys can see a little laser pointer, and I'm going to pretend I'm painting all over there. And so that's going to get rid of a lot of that stuff up in the top area. And then I'm going to click here, go to the next one. So this is how the layers panels are going to look now. On the left, this is your little layers panel on the side of your screen. You've got your background copy, you've got a levels copy, and this one that looks like I spray painted on it. And I'm going to choose select all and merge them. And again, when you right click and click merge, it's one of many choices, but the lady said to do merge, so I clicked on that, the tutorial I watched. And then you go into this next screen, the right screen. You can see it's compressed everything into one layer. You got your background that's locked. You've got this one layer that's painted over and masked. And you're going to go up here to normal and click on that. And you're going to go back into the supermarket with 150 cereal choices, but you're going to choose screen. And because the lady said to choose screen. And that will then bring up the next window. And we're going to click on that. Now you had layer one, it created a layer called layer one of all those merged areas. And so what you're going to do is then make a duplicate, but rename them, because here it makes it easier if you know what you're doing. You've got star 45 degrees and star negative 45, because this is a 4-point star. So think of the angle. And so that's real simple to do. Here we are going to go up to filter, blur, motion blur. And a little preview window opens up, and you can see that on the left here. And you type in 45, and this gives you the angle of where the star points are going to go. And then, okay, pick 250. Well, I picked it because the lady in the video said pick 250 as a starting point. It's all experimental, so you can just kind of play with it and see what you like. You're going to have to do this a couple times, and there's a very easy way to do it. Once you click OK, back on your filters, it'll be the first choice. It's always the one that you just last did. So I clicked on that twice. It's kind of like a stamp. It's like you're stamping once, stamping twice, stamping 3 times to get it more intense. And once I did that, I got the 45 that way. I then chose here the star 45, negative 45. And I did the same thing, but you can't do a shortcut now. You do have to go in and go filter, blur, motion blur, negative 45, and stamped it. Boom, boom, boom. That made that. Okay, now I've got 2 layers that have been stamped like that. Then you can see in my blow up here of the screenshot, I'm starting to get the star effect, but you might want to intensify it. And again, you're duplicating layers because it's like the stamp and you're stamping it. But in this case, she said to choose both layers and do a group from layers. And why? Well, because she said to do it. And so I did. And then I just did the simple command or shortcut is Control J or Command J, depending on what computer you're on. And that's going to duplicate your layer. I did it bloom, bloom a couple times, and I watched it each time. And then I ended up with that. So, okay, I got the starburst. It's a little hazy. Because of all this diffracting light, you create some haze. So I could have fixed it in Photoshop, but I wanted to do it in Lightroom where I can do non-destructive. So I clicked on it and took it back in. And on the left here, you can see I've used the dehaze filter, which was mentioned earlier as a good way to cut that haze. And kind of taking it down. I actually like that I got kind of the shape of the building a little better here on the roof line. But here's the before and here's the after. So it wasn't quite 400 steps, but if you're willing to play with it, and I think that's the whole thing with Photoshop, you just have to look at those choices and experiment. So
interesting.
That's my own. Yeah, I'm sure.
You can. One step saving part is once you've done your plus 45, you do last filter, and then you can just adjust the angle without having to go through all that other junk.
Oh, okay. Well, like I said, there's always a trick or some tricks.
Chris, there's even an easier way to do that. Is create a starburst brush, and I'll show you tomorrow at the SIG how to do it.
Okay, good.
Well, I thought that Tim had one of the best ways to do it. He ordered the right kind of beer.
Yeah, you go.
Right?
Yeah.
Right? And he moved the glass so that the light came through the beer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
It was brilliant. We all commented
It
on
does
it.
work too, yes.
Glass is important.
That was fun. So, okay. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, everyone, for coming, for all those who gave Share and Learns, and Connie for the speaker, and all of our chairman's activity group, and for all the time and effort you put into it this last month. Next, looks like we've got a really great agenda coming up in the future. So look for a note we are very shortly about the night photography Zoom meeting to kind of a get together to talk about what's going on. And then Jim Skeppens will also have something coming up to talk about the Albuquerque trip.
Yep.
So
Can I-
anyway, I think we're all ready to go. It's 9 o'clock.
Hey, one quick
Well,
thing, Kathy, for the
yes.
benefit of the group.
Go ahead.
Again, I'm a member of the Black Hills Photography Club. One of the things they wanted to do this year was to be, have a more formal sister chapter, if you will, to share experiences or share being judges in contests. Just wondered if our club would be willing to maybe make an initial step towards being a sister club, if you will, to that club up there, just for fun, just to see what we can do with it.
No, I think that would be
Yeah.
fun. We've met them. They're very nice. So, and you're up there half of the year anyway. So you're a good ambassador between the two. So what do we have to do for that?
All I wanted to do tonight was just make an initial, throw it out there just to see whether there'd be interest in trying to do it. I think one of the things we're looking at maybe doing is that every other month they have a little internal photo contest. Perhaps we, one or more of us, could be the judge of that particular month for looking at and judging the top pictures that they have submitted. It's kind of like a more formal share and learn, if you will.
Okay. No, I think we could learn from that too. So, any other comments about that, Chuck?
That's good. I have what I need right now. We'll take it and run with it.
Okay. All right.
And EJ Tall has offered to give a presentation that we'll have a meeting where we just present our photographs and he tells you how to improve them. And he said there will be no bad photographs, just better ones.
Yeah.
Who is this, Emily?
EJ Tall. He used to be a member and he's a professional photographer.
Okay.
Yeah. Now he didn't join. He's no longer doing photography, is he?
No, he lives near the golf course and his house flooded and his wife saved everything but his camera.
Ooh.
Oh.
So anyway, he sold all his camera gear, all his backdrops, everything. He doesn't do it anymore. So
Oh, that would be good.
yeah,
We should get more information on that too.
Hey,
Okay.
Kathy, I have one last word for everyone out
Yes.
there. Please
Yes.
renew your dues.
is there a way to tell if we did already for those of
You
us
just
that have
contact, you
memory
have,
problems?
you have, and you can contact me if anybody needs to know if they have or not. But
Okay.
renew your dues so we can keep this group going as well as we have.
Am I still
Thank you.
paid ahead, Connie?
Yes, you are.
All right.
I'm
Thanks,
Pam,
me
but yes,
guys.
you have.
Bye.
Hi, everybody.
Okay. All right. Good night,
Bye.
everyone. Thank you.
Bye, good night.
Bye.
Night all, thank you.